Good morning. Welcome in to yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. And I want to start off with Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns loss last night. We'll get to some Cardinal stuff, but this stuff is juicy. Let's go.
The Ben Garcia Show. Yeah. Woo. Best show in the land. Yup. Listen. Come and get your information from Ben Garcia. Get the latest on your quarterback, running backs, and receivers. Tune in, so any other show you don't need them. Any news that he giving out, please just believe him. Giving out the latest prediction and top-notch analysis. Wanna hear the truth, better have thick skin like calluses. The latest move that your team just made can be damaging. The dudes ain't speaking no facts, they just be rambling. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. Yeah. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show. Go get the cameraman.
But I said it at the time, and I was shocked at the lack of agreement within NBA media.
It's yet another edition
Kevin Durant tanked his own
Garcia Show. I understand there for a second. I kind of tipped my hand at something that I was just watching a second ago. But hey, that's what happens here when you're a one-man band. Either way, guys, appreciate you guys making me a part of your day. A lot of stuff to get to on this edition of the Ben Garcia Show, so I just got to be honest with you guys. We got to hop right into it because there is just not a lot of time to spare. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you are indeed in the chat and you're just like, you know what, I want to support this guy, but I don't want to give him any of my hard-earned money, hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Those two things are free features. And then if you're like, you know what, let's leave him a tip on the side of that, then you know what? Let's just go ahead and follow him in all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Okay. It is a very interesting time to be a Suns fan. And I am not someone who likes to doom and gloom for long. I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you exactly what I think, but I can't continue to roll on here every single day and tell you how much the Phoenix Suns suck. But I also don't want to blow smoke, if that makes sense. I don't want to lie to you. But, you know, fans on social media have tend to drive me a little crazy. And my guy Ricky, as he says in the chat, Ben, I'm finally up to watch the live. I appreciate you watching the live with us every morning, 6 a.m., Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, local time. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, Ricky. Sandman, Michael, Ivan, my guys in the chat, they are always here. Good dudes. Anyways, it gets a little frustrating dealing with Suns fans. I think they're good people. I don't think anything poorly of them because they're fans. Sometimes they don't use rationale. And I saw last night a tweet from a guy who I don't follow, I don't know, but I'm really sick of this narrative that the Phoenix Suns front office failed Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. I'm sick of it. Did Matt Ishbia make some missteps? Without a doubt. Did he go all in on the wrong players? Without a doubt. Did James Jones play a role in this? Probably less than Matt Ishbia, but he did. New owner syndrome. I talked about this with Nick Wright at the Super Bowl last week. It was just a failure. But the idea that the Suns front office failed those two players is ludicrous. And here's why. You know, I saw this tweet last night. I'm not going to say the name of who it was. If you want to follow me on social media platforms and go see that, you can do that. But it said this. 36, I'm so sorry this front office failed you listening to the media in Arizona. Not something you should ever do. The last part of that is just stupid. I always find it very funny that a fan page that calls two players by an arbitrary nickname that Devin Booker coined themselves is just strange to me. But I basically said, now would be a good time to remind everyone that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant also recruited Bradley Beal heavily, meaning they were on board with the vision of the front office, once again, meaning they have failed. Not just the Suns front office. Everyone has. So this idea that it's just on the front office, and then, of course, that same person sent me a screenshot of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Monti Kamara, and DeAndre Ayton, and basically it said yawn, which is, again, stupid. It's not a real response to something when you don't actually have something smart to say back to a point that I made, and said that this would have worked. But let's take his point at face value. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Monti Kamara, DeAndre Ayton. And this is me not necessarily pointing the finger at the Suns season at Kevin Durant or Devin Booker. It's me showing everyone it's just all of it is a colossal failure. It's not just one specific player. And it was those five guys, Monti Kamara, DeAndre Ayton, the big three. And so I had to tell everyone this. Now would be a good time to remind everyone, Devin Booker didn't want DeAndre Ayton here. He didn't. It's why he said the things he said after their first meeting with DeAndre Ayton, basically saying, if you were someone that was going to, if you're going to play every night like that, DeAndre, basically saying, awesome, but you got to play consistently every single night. DeAndre Ayton didn't do that, and that's why he drove the Suns players insane and the Suns front office insane. That's why Devin Booker didn't want him anymore. And then also I said, you have Kamara. His name's Ryan Dunn. Kamara is just more further along in his development because he's a second-year player. And then at that point, it is just going back and forth with this guy. And then, of course, a fan page on social media thinks that they know more than someone that covers the team and the people on the team. My point is the Suns players are just as much to blame with this Phoenix Suns season going awry than it is just the Suns players as a whole, guys. It's not just one singular guy. It is the whole combination of players, coaches, and the front office. It's not just me pointing the finger at Booker and Durant, but they do share some blame. And I want to get to why I think the Suns' future is brighter than it looks. But I saw this take from Colin Cowherd yesterday, and I think it was really interesting about what he had to say about Kevin Durant. So, here's Colin talking about Kevin Durant and him ruining his own career, which I think is a little much.
But I said it at the time, and I was shocked at the lack of agreement within NBA media. Kevin Durant tanked his own career. He really did. He was, at the time when he was at Golden State, Kevin Durant was there were a half the people covering the league said he was better than LeBron. He was beating LeBron. He was a better offensive player. He made Steph look small. He was MVP of finals. The league thought it was twice. The league thought it was unfair. I mean, Adam Silver was uncomfortable with how dominant they were. And then he decided, I want to go play with Kyrie in Brooklyn. The hell? And I've always felt the difference between LeBron and KD is not their games. They're both all-time great players. The difference between LeBron and KD is LeBron is more like a Gordon Ramsay or a Jay-Z. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. And Kevin Durant is more the artist who halfway through the tour cancels the tour, sues Ticketmaster, and gets into a fist fight with his drummer. Is like,
I think that's a little far. And I love Colin. I recently met Colin in New Orleans for the first time, a guy I really look up to in this business. I think he's fantastic at what he does. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Kevin Durant started off in Oklahoma City. Then he went over to the Golden State Warriors, won 2 championships. Yes, the Brooklyn move was a disaster. But going to Phoenix wasn't seen as a disaster. There was a lot of good players here. Bradley Beal was added to this roster. It wasn't just all doom and gloom for the Phoenix Suns when Kevin Durant came here. He came here with championship aspirations for this team. So I think that part is a little unfair towards Kevin Durant's career. But it does go to show you, he did play a hand along with Devin Booker. This is not me defending Devin Booker by any stretch of the imagination. Last night, him not playing because of soreness, when the Suns' season is hanging in the balance, when he's about to have a week off, just lunacy for the Suns team. Just absolute lunacy. But it just goes to show you, everyone has played a hand in the Suns' missteps this year. It's not just the front office, guys. I think it's nonsense to think that way. And then it leads me to this. As much as I love having Kevin Durant on the Phoenix Suns, and last night was a terrible loss, the Suns' future is much brighter than people give it credit for. Much brighter than people give it credit for. Because there's a team out there who has a do-over button sitting right in front of them. And I think by this time next year, the Suns are not going to be championship contenders. That is so far out the window. Couple of seasons down the line, then it can change. But there is something to look forward to. If the Houston Rockets want Kevin Durant, the Phoenix Suns should almost be convincing the Rockets they want him, so much so that it's going to be negotiating on both sides, where the Rockets kind of want Kevin Durant and the Suns have to convince them to take Kevin Durant. Because you look at what the Suns roster next year could look like. I mean, think about it. Seriously, think about it. You have to get either one of Fred VanVleet or Dillon Brooks. Otherwise, the money doesn't work. So one of those guys is a non-negotiable. They have to be on in any trade for Kevin Durant because of the money. So you add a Fred VanVleet or a Dillon Brooks. It's probably a Fred VanVleet. He's 31 years old. He's your new point guard. Good player. Nothing more than that. A good player who is mostly just money in a trade. But if you can get a Jabari Smith and a Cam Whitmore, which I don't think is insane. What I do think is insane is asking for Şengün or Thompson. Those two things are crazy. It's a pipe dream. It's not happening. But, I mean, if the Lakers can get Luka Doncic for pennies on the dollar, I feel like you could ask for more for that being one Kevin Durant in a trade. Not that Kevin's better than Luka, but you could put it out there. You just don't want to be fleeced like the opposing team. And I think that that's a cheap price to pay for the Rockets to get a top 10 player of all time who I don't think is even close to being washed. And it's a Suns team at that point where you could get a Fred VanVleet, a Cam Whitmore, a Jabari Smith Jr., get all your picks back, and maybe a little bit then some. Maybe an extra pick to sweeten the deal. A sweetener, if you will. And then you look at what the Suns team can look like. Fred VanVleet, Bradley Beal running the point guard position. Who knows? This might be a little too far. Maybe you can get a Reed Shepherd. He hasn't been amazing this year. He got sent down to the G League at one point. But if you can potentially get him, and you go from a Fred VanVleet and a Bradley Beal at the point guard position, maybe a Reed Shepherd, then a Devin Booker, a Royce O'Neal at the shooting guard position, and then at the small forward spot, Devin Booker, Cam Whitmore, add an extra player in there in free agency. Then you have Jabari Smith and Ryan Dunn as well at the forward position. Bowles there as well. Nick Richards, and you're able to add a guy. Because not only can you trade Kevin Durant for a Cam Whitmore, for a Jabari Smith Jr., for your picks back, but then at that point, you can get yourself below the second apron. And with the assets that you have around here from that Kevin Durant trade, your picks then become available to also be traded. You get a center on this team very quickly, I might add. And then at that point, that Suns team is a top 5 team in the West. They're probably 5. They're probably 6. But they're fun to watch. They're frisky. They're young. At that point, you go from old and brittle to young and kind of spunky. You wait an extra year for that Bradley Beal contract. Maybe with only 2 years left on the deal, it's a little bit more tradable. And maybe you can find something with this roster. I'm not trying to push Kevin Durant out the door. And I think it's a little much to say he's tanked his own career because of one bad move going over with the Brooklyn Nets. But I do think that this Suns team is closer to salvaging than people think. And I think the Houston Rockets are a team that can give a lot to this Suns team. And it won't necessarily cost the Rockets very much because they're not using their own picks. And they still keep the core of their team. Şengün, Thompson, Jalen Green. So this Suns team, it's not doom and gloom for years to come. Add an owner that is willing to be aggressive and ready to learn from his mistakes. I do think the Suns are closer to being relevant than some people think. And I think with a trade for the Houston Rockets that gives the Rockets Kevin Durant, the Phoenix Suns can get some players as well. Some younger guys that can help turn this team from old and brittle to young and spunky and a little bit bigger and below the second apron. It's not all doom and gloom. It can be fixed fairly quickly. And I think it's a little much to say it's the front office's fault that the Suns are awful. No, it's a little bit of everyone's. The Suns have a cultural issue, and it just needs to be fixed in some aspect. Because right now, what they're rolling out isn't working. All right. It's a little frustrating when we're pointing the finger at just one person, when the players have a hand in the Suns' failures this year as well. Okay. Let's move on over to the Arizona Cardinals, because there was a report by two of my guys, Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock, friends of the show, recently got them on the show. Good dudes. Daniel Jones was reportedly a person of interest for the Arizona Cardinals. And immediately Cardinals fans were, this is nonsense. How could the Cardinals want to do this? Until you add to the fact that the Arizona Cardinals were going to make him a backup. And honestly, I would love to have Daniel Jones on the Cardinals as the backup. Daniel Jones for spot starting 1 or 2 games a year and just coaching him not to lose the game in an offense that's predicated mostly on the run game is something I would be into. And the abilities to replicate what Kyler Murray does in the pocket, mobility-wise, would be fun to have him here for 1, maybe 2 games a year. A 17-game sample size, and I might want to blow my brains out watching Daniel Jones. But spot starting, I think it'd be fun. But it started this conversation of Monti Ossenfort, his team building, why I should be worried about it. This is why I'm not worried about the Arizona Cardinals going into the offseason. I'm only worried about one player, but I've talked about him enough in Kyler. I don't know if he's going to be able to play consistently through 17 games and be a guy that carries this team for years to come. But if you are able, but if you're like me, and you do believe in Monti Ossenfort and his team building, this Cardinals team could figure it out in a hurry. And I'm not this guy that is of the belief that Monti Ossenfort can't team build. Last year, the Arizona Cardinals were not ready to win. So why spend all my money on Christian Wilkins, who barely played last year, and on a bunch of players who can't fix this team right now? The offseason is coming. Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby could all be available. You have the assets to go get one of those guys. And in a weak draft, it makes sense that you could do that. And then you have the ability to go sign guys, a Josh Sweat, or maybe one of those Eagles defenders that were so good in the Super Bowl and that understand Jonathan Gannon's system because he was the Eagles defensive coordinator at one time. It is a really good opportunity this offseason, and it should be met with excitement from Cardinals fans. Not from, Good grief. Let's shield our eyes and hope it works out. This is a good free agency class. This is a good trade class. You go land a guy like a Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or Micah Parsons for a pick this year, obviously a couple of high picks in a draft that's not great. That right there boosts your defense to a whole different world. And then you're able to go get a guy potentially like a T. Higgins. It's time to load up the roster. That's what the Eagles did. You go give Kyler Murray yet another weapon. I keep getting Kevin Durant, Kyler Murray's names mixed up this morning. But you go get a T. Higgins. You go sign one of those three guys in Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, or Myles Garrett. This offseason should be met with excitement if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan. Not doom and gloom. They're closer to success than you think, very similar to what we just got talking about with the Suns. And I'm not going to hold it over Monti Ossenfort's head because he sat out a free agency last year that was largely fool's gold once again. He can get active in the trade market. He can go get active in the draft potentially. And the Cardinals have money to spend. A top 5 team on this, a top 5 team in terms of spending in cap space. This team can get it figured out in a hurry. And they can load up this roster in a winnable NFC West, like my guy Ivan is saying in the chat. I'm not worried about Monti Ossenfort's ability to team build. I'm worried about Kyler Murray being stable for a 17-game sample size as well as being healthy. That's the only thing that I met with caution here. But I have this new sense of jubilation for this Cardinals team after coming back from New Orleans and talking to Dan Orlovsky and talking to Chris Sims, Nick Wright. Everyone who knows quarterbacks in every sense of the imagination all love this guy. So why shouldn't I wrap my arms around him? Especially with a team that's got money and has the ability to pay their own players, that being one Trey McBride, going and getting a Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, or a Max Crosby. Go get a T. Higgins. Stack the deck of this roster for this team. Should be met with a lot more excitement than it is doom and gloom for this team. This team can be fixed very quickly and can be ready to compete next year. And after seeing what the Eagles did with the quarterback, who I think is a fringe top 10 guy, I don't think he's an elite quarterback in the NFL. Why can't the Cardinals replicate that? And I've seen a lot of, well, Monti Ossenfort, he's cheap. He's not able to go. Like, why would he be cheap? It's not his money. He's not saving himself any dollars for a rainy day. I like the idea of what Monty can do for this team. And his ability to wheel and deal, make trades, go get a couple of star guys. And I think it gets just seeing some of the things, the first leak of potentially Daniel Jones being here, Cardinals fans get flashbacks to last year's free agency where it was a lot of pomp and thrill at the beginning, but lacked a lot of sizzle with the guys that they signed. Last year was about building the core. Getting guys who don't get injured, even though that they all did. But Jonathan Jones and Bilal Nichols didn't miss any games until they came to the Cardinals. Hence why, once again, free agency is fool's gold. Pick one or two guys that you really like that can help this team. Make a trade or two and hit in the draft. And just so everyone knows, Monti Ossenfort's really good at that last thing in the draft. So, this idea that's doom and gloom for Cardinals fans, give it time. This thing's going to get figured out, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun for years to come. I don't think this is something that is going to be quickly lost in the offseason, and the Cardinals are going to miss out on guys. If you're on Twitter and you see those updates, or you have Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter's tweet notifications on, and you're waiting for the Cardinals to make a move, immediately what you're going to see is a lot of Arizona Cardinals notifications because of the money and because of the picks disposable to them to go make a trade or signing for a guy that can help this team. Not only am I not worried about Monti Ossenfort's team building and aggressiveness, I can't wait to see him show it off this year in free agency, in the offseason as a whole, whether it's the trade market, free agency, you name it. The only guy I've got a little bit of concerns with is Kyler. But after going to New Orleans and talking with all the smart people, Kevin Clark, Nick Wright, Dan Orlowski, Chris Sims, everyone's in on him. So why shouldn't I give the guy another chance? Even if it's a real make or break once again in 2025. All right, guys. Thanks so much for making me a part of your day. Really fun stream today. A lot of things going on in the sports world. Those are the type of things that I just get giddy about. Thank you so much for making me a part of your day. Got to be able to get to the old grind at this point, that being the office. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. And do me a favor. Like I said before at the beginning of the show, you don't want to leave a tip? That's fine. Do something for free. Hit the like, hit the share button. That allows people to see this stream more and more and gives me more an incentive to be here at 6 a.m. to talk with you guys about all things Arizona sports. And I'm going to start splashing in a little bit of national stuff, all right? Don't get upset with me. I just, I like to have my opinion on some of those stories. Makes it easier for me to have things to break out as well. All right, guys. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show, TikTok, X, Instagram. There's a social media platform. I am there, as well as hit like on this show. Thank you so much for everyone being here today. Some new guys today. I've never seen Tyson Freeman in here before, but he's in here today. Good guy. The Rickety Bridge. That's very funny as well. And Sean, who ultimately hates my microphone. But hey, you know what? We're just gonna have to figure it out as we go. Sandman as well. Michael, all good dudes. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for making me a part of your day. And until Monday through Thursday is when we stream, 8 a.m. Eastern time. So until Monday, I'm Benjamin Garcia, and it has been the Ben Garcia Show.